Page 4 of 6 in the house. Let's get busy. Let's jump all over these questions. Oh, let's take a look. How many questions do we have? 2, 4, 6, 7. So that should take me about 3.5 minutes of homework and then maybe 10 minutes to review my work. Now, am I going to be scared of a question like this? Well, if we know our order of difficulty with the number of questions given to us, this would be like a medium, upper medium level question on the board of hard. We see the answer choices. Remember the wordy. If they're wordy like that, you're going to check your answers from the bottom up. Always, always. All right. If you saw the last video, the last question that we worked on is very similar to this particular question, which means that they like axing, chop, 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 axing these type of questions. Let's go into it. The function f of w equals 6w squared, and it gives the area of a rectangle. Okay, we got a rectangle. I'm doing this on a side scratch of paper. Now, the area would be 6w squared, which means one side would be, I guess, 6w, and the other side would be w, right? Because if we multiply side by length, we get 6w squared. Now, if its width is w and the length is 6 times its width, oh, we just pretty much did that, just from common sense. Which of the following is the best interpretation of f of 14? So that's when w equals 14. So that means it would be 14 times 6 times 14, and then we get an answer which would be 1176. That works. All right, let's take our look at answers from the bottom up. So basically, we just read and understood what they're saying. Now we just have to interpret it into one of the English sentences. If the width of the rectangle is 1176 feet, then the area is 14 feet squared. No, that's reversed. The area would be 1176. Not 14 feet squared, so D is out. What about answer choice C? If the width of the rectangle is 11, no, man, the width of the rectangle, 6 times 14 is not 1176, and then the length is 14 feet. No, that would be the width, or you could say length, but the other side is not going to be 1176, so C is out. Now B, if the width of the rectangle is 14 feet, okay, then the length of the rectangle is 1176. No, the area is 1176. If the length was 1176 times 14, it would certainly be bigger than 1176. So B is out. The best answer has to be A as in Apple Jacks. If the width of the rectangle is 14 feet, then the area of the rectangle is 1176. Yes, that is the best answer. What would be the length? It would be 6 times 14, which is 484. That's what a lot of students would be looking for, but we don't have to. Question number 18 is considered a hard question. And why? First of all, it gives most students, I don't think I can even fit the entire question on this. Hold on, let me shrink it down. I think it fits. Okay, all right. So if I saw a question like this, I'll tell you right now, I know I can handle it, but I don't feel like dealing with it. It's longer than the usual question. First of all, I know with the answer choice, so I'm going to have to work it from the bottom up. But why am I going to skip it? I'm going to dummy answer, right? I'll certainly dummy answer. And on test day, the next test, I'm going to make my dummy answer B because I voted with my students. It's going to be B. And then I would flag it for review, and I'd move on to the next question. It's probably going to be easier than this. But if I work on the next one, I'm finished, and I come back, now I have to play. I got some extra time. Let me see what I can do. Let's take a look at the equation. We're good. We got a variable t in there. All right, cool. The function m gives the predicted body mass m of t in kilograms. So this is all about weights of a certain animal t days. So t is all about the days after it was born in a wildlife preserve, where t is equal to or less than 390. And what's t all about? Days, 390 days. So t is going to be equal to or less than 390 days when we plug it in. Which of the following is the best interpretation of the statement? M of 330, which means m of 330 days, right? If we plug in 330 days into the equation upstairs, is going to be equal or approximately equal to the output or answer. And what is that? The mass in kilograms, 362 kilograms. That's it. Basic interpretation. So let's go through answers from the bottom up. Is it D? The predicted body mass of the animal was approximately 330 over 7. Bro, what is that, man? No, it's 362, so D is out. C, the predicted body mass of the animal is approximately 362 kilograms. Yes. 330 over 7 days? What? 330 over 7 days? They didn't tell me up here to plug in 330 over 7. Forget that noise. It does not work. Or even thinking 330 over the 7 within the formula. No, bruh, because no, it doesn't work. Maybe on this side you could say so, but that one is going to be squared. So, bro, That's got to go. That's ridiculous. Maybe it's my dummy answer. Maybe I'm correct from the start. The predicted body mass of the animal was approximately 362 kilograms. Yes, exactly stated there. 330 days 330 days after it's born? That's what I had to plug in for my days, right? I got lucky. I guessed correctly. Had I run out of time, I would have had a correct answer. But you want to verify A just in case? We'll take a look. The predicted body mass of the animal is approximately 330 kilograms. No, it's supposed to be 362 at 362 days. No, they got the information reversed. So definitely B is the best answer. Bro, I didn't even plan on that. That was good. All right, next question. Question number 14. This should be a medium level question, a high medium level question. Look how short and sweet that is. Remember the previous question? I told you guys that I would certainly skip this because I don't like that formula up there. It may be one of those speed bump questions. So I'd dummy answer, flag it, and then come back. Why? Because the next question is probably easier. So let's pretend this is a question number 19. Yes, it's easier. So I spent like 2 seconds flagging it. Then I come to this one without wasting any time on the previous question. All right, now we see this sucker right there. Z squared plus 10z minus 24 equals 0. They're using z. Now, if you're using scratch paper, I'm going to tell you why they like to use z in their questions. Because if you're going to use scratch paper, you might do this. Oh, let me write this down. And you do it quickly. Now, the number 2 and my z's, they kind of look alike. It looks like I got z squared plus 102 minus 24. So these guys are dirty, man. So instead, why don't we just use x squared plus 10x minus 24. Again, x squared plus 10x rather than using a z. If you know you got sloppy handwriting, then do that. That's it's a great tip. What is one of the solutions to the given equation? This is a question you can certainly use in Desmos, because if you plug it into Desmos, it's going to show you a parabola, and it's going to show where it clears right through the x-intercepts. So what is one of the solutions? They want us to solve for x. If you're going to do it longhand, we're going to have to factor this guy. So what two numbers, when we multiply them, will equal a negative 24, but when we add them, will give us a positive 10? It looks like it's going to be x plus 12 times x minus 2. Now let's test. Positive 12 and negative 2, does it equal negative 24? Yes. A positive 12 plus a negative 2, does it equal negative 10? Yes. Now that I've got this, set them both to equal 0. X plus 12 equals 0, so x must equal, we subtract 12 from both sides, equals negative 12. X minus 2 equals 0, so x equals a positive 2. What is one of the solutions? Now, why did I go back to that question? Because sometimes in these questions, they like to say x must be greater than 0. If that's the case, then only 2 would be the answer. But since they did not give us this, then either negative 12 or positive 2 would be the answer to this question. Either or. Please do not put both of the answers into the 6 boxes in a test. I had a student do that. But you can certainly use negative 12 in there, and or you can use a positive 2. Either answer would be correct. Next question. Question number 2. Oh, let me back up. The previous question, remember I told you guys to use Desmos? If you use Desmos, you have an XY coordinate plane that's going to show you when you plug that information in. And it's going to show you what? That your parabola is going to cross through a negative 24 as your y-intercept, but it's also crossing through your x equals a negative 12 here, and it's also crossing through x equals a positive 2 here. So your parabola is running something like this. You guys got that? That's what they would show you. So you got to zero in on here also, and figure out what are your x-intercepts. And it would be negative 12 and a positive 2. All right, next question. Oh, this is also a Desmos question, in case you're wondering. I would plug that into Desmos. It's going to give me my parabola and that my x-intercepts, like the previous question. I've got my answers. All right, let's take a look. If you had to do this longhand, do the following. It'll save you a lot of aggravation. That x squared, I'm going to set it up to be a positive, so I'm going to add 4x squared to both sides. So I'm going to wind up, if I do this right, if I add 4x squared to both sides, then I'm also going to add 7x to both sides. So I have everything on the other side to equal 0. So 4x squared plus 7x minus 36, that didn't change, equals 0. We cool? All right. So now you can factor this guy to see, well, what times what It's going to equal negative 36 and all that good stuff. But in this question, I'm going to show you something a little slick. Remember we had our zeros before our solutions with the previous question? Let's just take a look at question answer choice answer choice A. What if x did equal 7 over 4? That means that that 4 had to live on the other side. Remember, our equation is going to have this guy filled in and this guy filled in. But let's take a look at answer choice A. I'm just showing you extra test taking technique. This is a Desmos question. You would have gotten your answer faster. So that means I would be dealing with 4x equals 7. Also means that if I move 7 to the other side, I have to subtract it. So that would give me 4x minus 7. That could be my factor for this guy, right? But if I do have that, then I have to look at the other side to see what number would equal negative 36 for my value here. Negative 7 going into that is not going to work. So I could take a look at answer choice B. Hold on, let me clean this up. My answer choice B, what would happen if I took answer choice B and I say, all right, x equals 9 over 4. That's my solution, but remember, it is part of the factor. So what would happen if I multiplied 4 by both sides? That's going to give me 4x equals plus 9. If I subtract 9 from both sides, I'm going to get 4x minus 9. Could that be the factor for what's going on here? If it is, I got this negative 9. Negative 9 times what equals 36? It's going to be a positive 4. So more than likely is 4x minus 9 times x plus 4 is going to be the factorization of my answer. So my answer to this question is certainly going to be 9 over 4. How do you guys feel about that? Pause the video for a second and just take a look at what I did. It's an upper level technique of going through your answer choices and picking off the best answer. It's really meant to screw around with you, but if you use Desmos, it's so much easier. The question is, what if you're taking the SATs and you're dealing with the question number 22 that's dealing with this? That's where it gets a little hairy. But if you know some basic concepts with your answer choices and how you can manipulate them, because the question is telling you what is the positive solution. So these are solutions, or x equals. Those are also known as, remember, the solutions, quote, solutions is the same as the roots. They mean the same thing. They also mean what? The x-intercepts. And I think I know there's another word, but anyhow, in the test, I like to use those words. So if your answers are the roots or the x-intercept solutions, then just reverse solve them so you get your factorized version, and then you own the question all day. All right, let's go to the next question, number 24, which is truly meant to be a hard question. Now, I didn't write Desmos for this. But remember we talked about with Roman numeral questions? I would skip this 24 and I go immediately to question number 25, which is probably going to be easier. Why easier? Because Roman numeral questions like to steal time. All right, let's prove it. Let's take a look at this. We have x minus 29 equals x minus a times x minus 29. Reread the question. Which of the following are solutions to the given equation where a is a number and a is greater than 30? All right. This is what I'm going to go step by step because it can be a little confusing. Now, notice it says, which of the following are solutions? So they're telling you that each of these are your x solutions. All right, that's why it's a question 24. They're implying that each of those are equal to x. X equals a plus 1, or x equals 29. But then they mess around with you by telling you that a must be greater than 30. So it could be 31, 32, whatever. Now, what are we going to do? I'm going to test Roman numeral 3. What if x did equal 29? And I'm going to plug it into the formula upstairs. So that would be, let me do it down here. 29 minus 29 is equal to, what is x again? 29 minus a. Just do it like that for a second. And what's the next one going to be? X equals 29 minus 29. So all I do is plug in 29 into the formula upstairs. So let's solve this. What's 29 minus 29? 0 equals, what's 29 minus a? Is just 29 minus a. I can't do anything. What is 29 minus 29? Oh, that is equal to 0. So what is 0 times 29 minus a? It's going to be 0, which will be equal to the other side 0. So Roman numeral 3 does work. Got it? If there are any answer choices that do not include Roman numeral 3, like answer choice A, it's got to go. See, it shows 1 and 2, but we proved that Roman numeral 3 does work. 29 does work. All right, let's try with Roman numeral 1. We're going to use A for our x value. All right, let's stick it in there. I'm going to write it in. We're trying Roman numeral 1. A minus 29, remember we're plugging in an A for x, equals A minus A times A minus 29. All right, let's go and solve. What's A minus 29? Just A minus 29 equals, what's A minus A? 0 times A minus 29. All right, what's 0 times A minus 29? It's just going to be 0. Does it equal A minus 29? No, 0 is supposed to equal 0. So Roman numeral 1 does not work. So any answers to Roman numeral 1, good night. Good night. My answer must be C. Now, if you want to, you can go plug in Roman numeral 2, A plus 1, into the x values, and you're going to see it's going to work out. Why did you do Roman numeral 3 first? Well, because 29 is easier to plug in. I like it. And then why did you do Roman numeral 1 first? Because it's just A instead of A plus 1. I'm less susceptible to making a careless error. And in this case, I got lucky. I was able to eliminate answer choice Roman numeral 1, and the only ones left over is C, Roman numeral 2 and 3. All right, question number 14. This is a Desmos question, but I also included this handy-dandy little note. Whenever you see the word sum of solutions, right? Sum of solutions, remember, negative B over A. The question is showing us, what is the sum of solutions? So your brain says, oh, what is negative B over A for this sucker? The first steps first. This is question number 14, medium level. Then I want to test your mechanics. Distribute all the way across. X times X is X squared. X times 1 is just X. And then we have a minus 56. Then it's going to equal 4x times x is 4x squared. I'm just doing it carefully. And 4x times a negative 7 is a negative 28x. All right, let's combine like terms. I want to keep my x squareds positive, so I'm going to subtract x squared from both sides, right? When I do that, I keep my x positive, so it's going to be 3x squared. Now, I'm going to move everything to the other side. I'm going to subtract x from both sides, which will cancel that as well as that is canceled. So what is a negative 28 minus x equal to? That's going to be a negative 29x. And then I'm going to add 56 to both sides to get rid of this guy. So I'll have a plus 56 over here. And all that now is going to equal 0. Now, negative b over a. What is my a value? It is 3. What is my b value? Negative 29. What's my c value? Positive 56. So what's my negative b over a? What my negative b is? A negative 29. All over my a, which is a positive 3. So that equals a negative times a negative is a positive 29 over 3, and that is the answer to the question. Done. D-U-N. How'd you guys feel about that? Oh, by the way, if you plug 29 over 3 into your calculator, you get your decimal version of the answer, which is, I believe, 9 and 2/3, or 9.666666667. Then that would be the answer also. But once you got the fraction, why even go into decimal? Just keep the fraction. Now, if you plug this into Desmos, right? When you plug this into Desmos, it's going to give you a parabola. But you have to go to the x-intercepts and then add the x values of the x-intercepts. And notice, they're probably going to give you fractions. So if you're good with Desmos, you know how to work with fractions, great. If you're not good at working with fractions using Desmos, then you're probably going to get jammed. So maybe think about doing it longhand for certain types of questions. All right, question number 22. Oh, what do we have here? Sum of solutions. So what is that? Negative b over a. All right, let's do our business. Maybe we need to use it, but negative b over a would work with quadratics. This doesn't look like a quadratic. This is an absolute value question. So immediately when I see absolute value questions, I'm going to test it in two ways. I'm going to rewrite negative 5x plus 13 equals 73. Then I'm going to switch it up and put the opposite, negative 5x plus 13. What is that opposite? Equals a negative 73. Here we go. All you have to do is solve for x. You get your solutions, just add them together. All right, I'll do it longhand. Let's do the first part. Negative 5x. We're going to subtract 13 from both sides. So it's going to be 73 minus 13, which is 60. Then we could divide negative 5 by both sides. So x is going to equal a negative 12. We cool so far? All right, excellent. We got one solution. Now we're going to do the other side. Negative 5x. We're going to subtract 13 from both sides. So it's a negative 73. So minus 13 is going to equal 86. Is that right? Yeah, negative 86. We cool so far? All right, let's do it. Let's solve for x. So x, we're going to divide negative 5 by both sides. I'll just leave it as that. It's winding up to be a positive 86 over 5. Now we have to add the two together. You see, this is considered a hard question because they're testing your mechanics with this. Now, should this work in Desmos? Again, Gabby, my awesome student who is the queen of Desmos, she would certainly use Desmos for this. I'm going to go longhand because I want to go over your basic mechanics. So that's going to be adding a negative 12 over 1 plus, check this out, 86 over 5. So how do I solve this? Remember, when you're dealing with fractions, we need common denominators. So downstairs, I'm going to multiply downstairs by 5 for that 12, which means upstairs I got to multiply by 5 also. So that's going to be a negative 60 over 5 plus 86 over 5. What is that going to equal? That will equal 26 over 5, which is your answer. Now, the answer is given it straight up, 26 over 5. But they could have shown your answer as a decimal. Whoops. 26 divided by 5. Your answer could have been shown as also 5.2. So be very careful when you're answering your questions. And I think that concludes this page. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending. If you have any questions, you know where to contact me for sure. 786-877-7231. If you have any questions, you need access to documents, check it out. Glitchy glitch, flash, flash, flash. I'll catch you later.